Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Frankly, I'm always struck by a sense of sadness when the two of you show up here. Not that it has anything to do with either of you, but it really is sad. There's nothing to celebrate in any of this. I'm not going to say anything that hasn't already been said. But for me, you know, we sometimes get into really sort of nuanced and important arguments here. But for me, this is pretty simple today, what we're doing, right? You have an election. Joe Biden won that election. It was a close election, but it's an election he won. I don't, people may dispute it, but despite repeated efforts to demonstrate any kind of fraud involved, no evidence for that. Dozens of lawsuits, all unsuccessful, that led us to January 6th and certification. We're gathered here to do our constitutional responsibility. The Capitol is attacked by hundreds of people, results of the death of five individuals, subsequent suicides. The toll continues to rise. And so as a consequence of that, we establish your committee. And members are selected after going through a process that I think Mr. Perlmutter described well of looking at alternatives, but we end up with what we end up, which is a committee that has subpoena power to compel testimony of individuals that you believe can in some way enlighten us all on what happened. The two individuals, the subject of the resolution before us, clearly the committee has decided their work is of interest. One individual even wrote a book on the subject, or at least in part on the subject, so clearly has something to say about what happened and could shed some light on it. And yet, despite repeated attempts to ask those individuals to give testimony, they refused. The committee has the power of subpoena. I think it's Title II, Section 192 of the U.S. Code, makes it a federal crime to willfully defy a congressional subpoena, which has been lawfully issued to both gentlemen. I'm not sure what would compel me to oppose your recommendation. So you have the power to do it. Mr. Navarro and Mr. Scavino may withhold their testimony, but they may not do it without violating the law of the land. So I guess it's their choice to do, but it's not a choice that doesn't carry consequences, and violating the law should result in the referral to the Department of Justice. And it seems to me, if we don't proceed with this, the law is meaningless. If we don't proceed here, I'm not sure what, how we would suggest that Congress has any power in future investigations, in future endeavors when we issue subpoenas. So it's not only what we do here, as important as this is, and I can't frankly think of anything more important than what you're doing and what you're asking the two individuals to come and testify for, but it also sets the precedent in the future. Can you just willfully ignore subpoenas of the Congress, willfully ignore the law? And I'm not sure then the public should ever have any confidence in what we do. If you're not going to say there's got to be accountability for willfully ignoring the Congress that has lawfully extended these subpoenas, and I'm not sure how we would defend the Constitution. What will we say to our children and our grandchildren? Will there even be a Constitution to defend? I often think back to Ben Franklin at the Constitutional Convention, was concluding the second congressional, and was asked what we had, and he said, what have you given us? And he said, a republic if you can keep it. He was talking about moments like this. Are we going to keep it? And I fear for the life of me that we're hanging by a single thread at times. And so the work you do, and I don't know that anything I've said isn't factual. I don't know that, I mean, it's pretty clear to me. As I said, I'm not particularly sophisticated. I don't understand the nuance. This is pretty much straightforward. And so we need to save that republic, and we need to make sure that we leave it to generations to come. So I'll support the rule, the resolution, and I yield back.
Thank you very much. I think Mr. DeSagne has no questions. Ms. Ross.